Okay, so this would be bad. And the reason it's bad is for a couple of things. First of all, when you talk about numbers, you have to be really careful. First of all, you want the numbers to be of similar size and scope. And for example, we've got 1.2 to 2.1. And then at the other end of the scale, we've got 400 to 5,000. Those ranges are hugely different, okay? If all I knew was the relative size I was looking for, I wouldn't have to be very specific. For example, if this was a question about what's the value of pi, you would know that it's about 3.1 something. You would know it's not 3,000. Do you see what I mean? So that may not be the level of accuracy you want. You may want it to 2 or 3 decimal points. That's important. The other thing is you certainly can't have overlap. You notice the answer B and C overlap. Actually, answer A and B overlap. If the answer is actually 2, it could be under B or it could be under A. So numbers are really important. The other thing you have to watch out for with numbers is that sometimes the answer is, what's the lowest value that you should use? Well, it's then going to be one end or the other of the scale. The values in the middle are not going to apply, because if it's not the lowest of the values shown, it may not be the right answer. That's not coming out exactly, but you sort of get the idea. That you have to be careful, because sometimes the way the question is worded, I know that it's either going to be the highest one or the lowest one. The ones in the middle I can throw out, and that gives me a 50% chance of guessing, okay, and that's not good. We'll see some of those when we get to them. So this one's really ugly. Blue, because the correct color scheme for arterial flow is always blue. See all the errors made in that? First of all, they didn't have to give us the explanation as to why something was going on. You could have said blue. Then you have 7 to 10 millimeters, a range, exactly certain centimeters, and we never, ever use none of the above, all the above. Those are crutches because someone couldn't think of a fourth distractor, fourth choice, and so they threw it in there. Bottom line, a good item is one that addresses an important subject, requires analysis or synthesis of information. It's not just factoids. We don't want a test made up of factoids where you're just regurgitating things. We want a test that requires you to say, yes, I know that issue, I know that issue, I know these facts, I can pull these together in a synthetical fashion and answer the question. Okay, those are the good questions. All competent people would get it right, and all people who are not yet competent would get wrong. That would be an ideal question. And that if we actually had a question like that, we would only need one question in the test and we'd be done, because everyone who is competent would get it right, everyone who's not competent would get it wrong. But that's the idea. We want the tests to hang together so that the questions all predict who the competent people are. The other thing we've started to say lately is we're very concerned about not only the psychometric qualities of an examination, which are critically important, but also how the candidates perceive the test. If they walk out of a test thinking, that test was really off base, it had nothing to do with practice, it asked me a lot of factoids, really minutia kind of stuff, then their perception of the certification goes down, the value of the credential goes down. On the other hand, if they walk away from the test believing that it was fair but difficult, it was robust, then they have a very good confidence that the test is going to identify people correctly. So we want to have test questions that are covering big issues that are important to practice and not getting into minutia. Ground rules for the meeting. Everyone is equal. Now I know there's some people who've been here before, some people are EDTFs, been on a long time. In this particular meeting, no one trumps anybody else. Okay, everyone's equal, which means that everyone has to participate. You can't sit back and say, oh, those guys have been here before, I'm gonna let them do all the work and I'm just the newbie, I don't have to say anything. Not true. Nobody dominates. I know that sometimes we have people that are really good and really know the subject and really want to contribute, and that's good. But we also have to hear from everyone else. So we need to have that. The only person that can ask a dumb question is me. You guys, by definition, cannot ask a dumb question, because anything you ask is not going to be dumb. Because if you have a concern, you need to voice it. You may be the only person in the room that is thinking a certain way, but that may be critically important. I gave a test once where 15,000 people, one candidate wrote in with a concern, and it turned out that she was right. I was like, oh, all these other people didn't say anything. But in fact, that woman who wrote in was correct. We had to get rid of that particular question. Okay, so we want to stop that here with you guys. That's why there's a diverse group of people, different backgrounds, different locations, and you need to say something now before we go through the process. I never want to hear someone say, "Oh, let's just put it on and pre-test it and see how it does." Okay? Pre-test spots are really, really valuable. We only have so many of them. We don't want candidates taking time answering questions if we're not sure that they're as good as we can make them.